You're listening to ArTEEtude, a podcast with artists created and produced by Detlef Schlich, a visual artist and ritual designer, living and loving in West Cork, and best known for his essay about the cause and effect of shamanism, art and digital culture. Working in the field of performance, photography, painting, sound, installations, and film, he will dive and discover with us and a weekly creative guest into the unknown and exciting deep ocean of the creative mind.
This is Detlef Schlich, and today we dive into the deep and unknown, exciting ocean of the creative mind with the legend of modern art and punk rock, and this is Cliff Roman from California. Hi, Cliff. Hello. We just said it was so great. I mean, it was so great to speak about it last week.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah,
it's been great. It's been great meeting you and talking to you this past week. You know, and thanks for being patient and helping me get through this, because that was kind of rough when you know.
Yeah, we had a lot of problems with
we froze.
We froze.
That was a fake freeze, but but yeah, I'm luckily I was able to borrow a laptop from my brother. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joe.
And,
you really saved
the
our
day.
life.
It's working nicely.
It's lovely, and we can actually, because in the first episode we had as well a glitch in our communication. You couldn't really listen to me, and vice versa. There was always a couple of seconds, and now we can have a conversation, which is great, you know. So I'm really delighted. So thank you, Joel, again for that. That's great. We had last episode we spoke actually. I mean, Cliff is, like I say, I mean, he's not the godfather of Californian punk rock, but he's a founder member somehow of it for sure, you know. So, and he used to be the member of the Weirdos in the 70s, and there you can get them on Bandcamp as well. You can find them, you know. So it's straight punk rock. Yeah, we had last week already a chat about his time at the art college in California, a college with 1,000 members and more, and you could find any kind of art direction, dance, film, television, sculpturing. I mean, that sounds really amazing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last episode, Cliff already told about his lovely idea to create a room and somehow an exhibition happening, but he doesn't know the name. I think maybe it was the Foggers,
the fog room, or the gas chamber. Room. I can't remember. I made even a nice poster for it too. So the poster was, I found an image of the very first spacesuit ever invented. It was a German pilot wearing this weird spacesuit it looked like an upside down bucket with a glass visor on it.
Yeah.
And we had a blueprint printer, a printer for blueprints, and I ran the image through that, and I put whatever I titled it. You know, I had my name, Dave's name, and the gallery, whatever the gallery had a little name, and we had the date and the time on there. And it was kind of, you know, just to be mysterious. It didn't say much other than, you know, the date and the time in that image.
Oh, all right.
And I put it up all over the school. And it was a great period. I met a lot of interesting people. You know, the people that went to that school, especially the art school, they were the kind of kids that, we didn't fit in at high school. We weren't like jocks. We weren't into sports for the most part. We were more interested in art and music.
More the weirdos. So for the listeners, there were a time there were the jocks, and they were more in sport and football, and then there were the people who were just interested in art and music, and that
art and music,
weirdos.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I made friends there. A few people I still keep in touch with, and it was
that's good.
Very, very inspiring time. We used to we never really had assignments. We just had to sort of be productive. So
creating.
I was always creating. Yeah, I finally got my own little studio.
Yeah.
And I'd sit in there and I'd work on drawings and collages.
Yeah.
At the time, I was working at a store framing pictures. So I was, cutting mats and cutting glass. And I got real good at cutting glass, real thin, sharp pieces of glass. And I'd save them. And I got the idea to I sort of attached them to sheets of paper.
Yeah.
I'd use this adhesive called decoupage glue, and it was kind of this thick glue that dried clear. And then I would just do a lot of different things to the paper. I used to slice it with a razor blade. I would write things and then scribble over it so you couldn't read what I wrote. I would put, the word warning with an exclamation point across it, and there's this pieces of glass glued to the paper. I mean, you could cut yourself if you, weren't careful.
Sure. I mean, that's...
Yeah. And then I remember I made, when they were selling paintbrushes at the store, and the paintbrushes came in these plastic containers that were, I noticed, hey, I could melt wax and pour melted wax in these containers and get these cool looking spikes. So I melted hot pink wax and I made these hot pink spikes. Yeah. That was like a piece I did. And another thing I did was etchings, So we got an etching machine in the print lab. The print lab down was incredible, and we also did lithographs. Oh, so I made this litho from my girlfriend Gracie, who later became my wife. She was working for this company called Photomat. So Photomat was this tiny little booth where the girls would sit there in a uniform. And people would drive up and drop off their rolls of film, and then they would come back a few days later, and and they'd pick up their photos. So she works at this Photomat somewhere in LA, and she said that there's all these photos that no one ever came back to pick up. So one day she brings me these. I said I'd like to look at them. She brought me a bag full of photos and film. That people just never picked up, and so I made a lithograph using. So I looked through these found photos, and I learned a process to make a color lithograph. So we had the stone, we had a plate. I had to make 4 plates, one for red ink, one for yellow ink, one for blue ink, and one for black ink. So you get full color. Yeah. And I did a litho using these photos, found photos, Instamatic photos, which were usually little square photos with white borders on them. Yeah. And the color was always kind of saturated or not too good.
Yeah, 70s like.
Yeah, it was sort of like a collage. I used those photos and a few other images.
That's great.
And, that was an amazing process, because right about then, like lithography, and for a while I was thinking, man, I'd love to, work at, when like there was a lithography studio in LA called Gemini, and my friend from Cal Arts got a job there, and he's working with Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberg and Roy Lichtenstein. That's where they would go to make their lithos,
Oh, Roy Lichtenstein, yes.
Yeah, right. So for a while I was like, man, I think I might enjoy doing that, but it was, it's a lot of work and it's very technical, and you had to learn how to. The metal plates would have to be kind of attached to the stone,
and absolutely exact, accurate.
Yeah. So you have to have the everything lined up.
On the millimeters.
Right, especially if you're doing 4 colors, it had to be. It had to be very precise, and then we had to sort of learn how to. You take these metal plates and you brush on a photosensitive liquid,
the stuff,
and then you're actually you had to whatever your image was, you had to make a film of that in reverse, and you had to use a filter for each color. So it was really very technical. So that was kind of, and it came out pretty good. I made about a few copies of this one litho using and we also one day, in my class, I told my class that I made a film. So the film, I didn't make a film, Det. I just I found some films in this bag that my girlfriend brought me. Films like, they were just like home movies that people made and never picked up.
And you added them together.
I don't remember if I edited them. I think I just said, "Oh, here's my movie." I just grabbed a couple, So my class is sitting there. Oh, Cliff made a film, and I'm going to show this random home movie. So that day. We had a guest there, and the guest happened to be a curator from the LA County Museum of Art. This lady comes, she's sitting there, and she was fascinated by my movie. So I had to tell everyone, well, I really didn't make it.
Did you tell them that you did?
But once I told them that, they thought it was great. Yeah.
And so you told them, so you couldn't lie.
Yeah, I had to.
You had to. Oh God, it was almost
I meant
the
to
champion.
too. It was almost like a joke, kind of.
God, yeah, I know. I mean, that's
that's the kind of stuff I do.
I mean, imagine this creator would have been then eventually the one.
She really liked it.
Imagine she would make the film. She would be the one who brought it to the development center. And would see it then.
Yeah,
it could happen too.
She told me. She said that was really good, because I forget what the film was. It was about some people they're on a boat in a lake. So everyone's sitting there watching this home movie of some family.
I mean, at least it was not a Naughty America one. No, it was far from that. Yeah.
So at least it wasn't.
That.
I did make a video. A film.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one of the things we could do, we could check out the Sony portable video machine. All right.
Yeah.
So I checked it out. I went over to Dave Trout's house, and it was black and white. And so I got an idea for a film, and this was pretty risque too. So I took a hot dog or a sausage, and I ran a real thin string through it, or a fishing line, and I attached it to a stick or a rod or a hanger or something.
Uh-huh.
And we filmed. I took a frying pan, put it on Dave's stove. And we set the camera up so it was just looking at the skillet on the stove with this hot dog in it. So we turn on the flame, and we start the camera. And I'm out of camera view. I'm holding the I can move the hot dog around, right?
Yeah.
It's attached to some some fishing line. So I'm like, you know, as it starts to sizzle, I'm like getting it to like hop up. At the same time, I'm reading. There was some sort of like rated X newspaper that just was, you know, around all the newsstands at that time, right?
Yeah.
So at the same time, I'm reading like this letter about this person who knocks on their neighbor's door to borrow some sugar, but then they come in to get the sugar and then they end up having sex, you know. So it's a whole description of this, of, you know, it was like one of those, you know, dirty stories, you know. And so
now we are at Naughty America.
Yeah, and I'm reading that, and I'm like, you know, as it gets more into the, you know, the details of the act, I'm like, you know, making this hot dog like really jump around in the skillet. You know?
All right, yeah.
So I ended up showing that to the class, and they thought.
I see you had fun. That's great.
I actually showed that also at an art exhibit at another art school. So I run that film, and the people in there was like no one said a word after I showed that. It was sort of like shocking.
Honestly, what was it? Well, because they liked it so much, or they
no, because it was rated X, you know, as they used to say, rated X.
What is rated X? I mean.
I was reading a description of a sex act while the hot dog's jumping around in the pan.
Yeah, but it's just a description.
So all these people are sitting there watching to see the film, you know, and it was sort of like presented, you know, Cliff Roman, the local artist, is going to show this a film, and so everyone's waiting, you know, there. But first I show them that film I made. First I show them the film I made where I'm, you know, lip syncing to Secret Agent Man, right? And everyone like applauded. They go, "Wow, that was great," you know. And then I show, and I said, for my next film, you know, here's my next film, and then video was a video, and I show them the video of the hot dog jumping around in the skillet. You can hear the sizzling, and it's like bouncing up, you know. And then there's this narration. Wow, I knocked on my neighbor's door for a cup of sugar. She let me in, and next thing I knew, our clothes were off, and, you know, we were having sex, and, you know. And so when that ended, it was very quiet.
I mean, what was about the 70s and the flower power and free sex and all that in California? I mean,
I don't know. That happened when I was in high school, but I was kind of young at that when all that was going on, you know.
Honestly,
I mean, I heard about it, but you know, you know, because that was. I remember we were on a vacation, and one summer. It's like 1967, the summer of love, or maybe that was 66. I forget.
Yeah.
And I'm with my parents, and I'm like, hey, can we go to? You know, we were in San Francisco, and I said, let's find Haight Street. You know. The corner of Haight and whatever, you know, there was two famous streets, you know.
Okay.
And I remember we were cruising down there, and it was the summer of love, and there were hippies all over the place. It became this big thing.
Yeah.
And but I never got to go to a Love-In or any of the, whatever, you know. I don't know. But yeah, you know.
So you were not a hippie. You were a punk almost.
No, well, in high school, you know, I grew my hair long, and all my friends had long hair, and everyone did, you know. And then, and then I had so one of my teachers at CalArts is this famous sculptor, Linda Benglis. She's like the hottest artist in the United States, right? Yeah. She shows up one day to class. She's got this haircut. Her hair is dyed orange.
Yeah.
And she's got a haircut like David Bowie. Exactly like David Bowie, right? Who was, at the time, was just starting to get really big, right? And In fact, right around when I was going to Cal Arts in 1972, my girlfriend Gracie, for my birthday, bought tickets to go see David Bowie. I'd never seen him before, just heard about him. And there's David Bowie at the Santa Monica Civic with the Spiders from Mars. Yeah. So that's the band from the Ziggy Stardust album. He's on his tour promoting the Ziggy Stardust album.
Absolutely, yes.
So it was the greatest concert I ever saw. It was
probably very, very, very inspiring.
It was like, oh yeah, and he was just. It was like seeing the Beatles or Elvis. It was incredible. And
sure. I mean,
the very next day, David Bowie's like world famous because of this show.
Honestly.
Yes, there was like international press was at the show. There was a lot of interest in in this record and in the tour and in David Bowie, and so it was interesting. My teacher shows up, Linda Benglish shows up. She's got bright orange hair. I was like, "Where'd you get your haircut?" She goes, "She told me where she got her haircut." So I go to this salon in L.A. in West L.A. Hollywood, and I find the guy. And I didn't have my hair dyed orange, but he cut my hair really cool, short. It was sort of like slicked back. And so everyone else has long hair, and I'm like looking like, kind of like Lou Reed, I guess. I didn't say I wanted a Lou Reed haircut, but when I look at photos of myself back then, I said, oh, kind of like the way Lou Reed looked, and because I wore dark sunglasses too. So, and I wore a leather jacket and blue jeans and dark T-shirt, black T-shirt, and that was my look. Yeah, 1972. So, and then we.
So it's all the fault of the hairdresser.
One day, so some of the people I went to school with lived in this huge house in the valley. So one day they said, "Hey, let's play some music just for fun." So somehow there was a drummer, and we got some equipment, and I borrowed a guitar, and I'm standing there, we're playing, and I'm like banging out like Wild Thing and Gloria, whatever three-chord song I could manage, because by then I'd already learned a few chords on guitar, and
so we were in the early 20s.
Everyone's going, you should be in a band.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You should be in a band.
Yeah, it was sparkling somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So early 20s.
Yeah, I was about 19 or 20 when this happened.
It's quite late as well, no? I mean, I started
as well. When I saw David Bowie, it was like the day before my 19th birthday, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And right around then, right around then was the sort of like the glam and glitter period, and I also saw. The New York Dolls. I heard about this band called the New York Dolls. I heard a song on the radio called Trash. And they said, that's the New York Dolls. Yeah. And my friend John Denny and I were really interested in this band. John and I actually met in high school. And for some reason, they came and played the Whiskey. And he couldn't go, so I bought a ticket, and I went to go see the New York Dolls at the Whiskey A Go-Go. It's their first show in L.A. ever. So I go in, I watch them. They're incredible. We're doing 2 shows a night, so they're kicking everyone out. They're pushing everyone out of the Whiskey so they can let people in. There's a line around the block for the next show. And I'm the last guy. I made sure I was the last guy to leave. And this man is standing at the door. I didn't know it at the time, but that was Elmer Valentine. He's the legendary owner of the Whiskey A Go-Go, Elmer Valentine. So I said, hey, is it okay if I stay for the second show? Because I came in late. He looks at me. He goes, you didn't come in late. I locked the door before the show started. So he goes, you know what? You can stay. He goes, just go upstairs there and sit up by that door. So I go, okay, thanks. So I go upstairs. I'm like, wow, I'm the luckiest kid in the world. I get to see the New York Dolls the second time. They kicked everyone out. And I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting by this door in the balcony, and there's a stairway that goes up to the dressing rooms.
Yeah.
And there's a bouncer there, and I said, "Hey, can I get their autograph, the New York Dolls?" He goes, "Sure." So he comes back. He goes, "What's your name?" I said, "My name's Cliff." He comes back with a piece of paper. They all signed it, and they wrote, "Hey, Cliff, drop over sometime. Ha ha." And there's Johnny Thunders. Everyone signed my. I had their autographs. I was like, "Wow!" And then I saw them play the second set, and then not long after that. This album came out somewhere around the same time, called Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges. Raw Power. Now, Raw Power, that's probably one of the, besides the New York Dolls' first album, which I bought, and then I had Raw Power, so I have these two albums. Yeah. And I think around the same time I also had Transformer by Lou Reed. I was really into Lou Reed, and I also had the Velvet Underground. I was starting to collect Velvet Underground records, right? And so that's what I was listening to a lot, And then there's David Bowie and T-Rex, and so all that sort of. And then at the same time, also, I'm listening to old rock and roll, and reggae, and
quite eclectic, actually.
Yeah, I was. Somehow I got an album, a really good album by Eddie Cochran, who wrote "Summertime Blues" in the 1950s, and so I would go from. I'd be listening to, the New York Dolls and Eddie Cochran, and the New York Dolls. I could hear the connection, between Eddie Cochran and the New York Dolls.
Honestly,
yeah. And I'd listen to Velvet Underground, and. Then I'd hear the connection with, Iggy Pop and the Stooges. That album, Raw Power, was for me, a landmark record. That had all the wild elements of punk rock right there in that record.
So it was very inspiring for you as well.
Yeah. And so did the first New York Dolls album. And then the next thing that happened, and I did go, I did go see Iggy and the Stooges did a 4-night stand at the Whiskey. So I just happened to be very lucky that we lived where we lived in North Hollywood, because I could, by then I'm driving and I could just go over the hill, over Laurel Canyon, legendary Laurel Canyon, where all the musicians used to live. And John, my friend John Denny, who was the singer of the Weirdos, he used to tell me stories how his parents rented a house in Laurel Canyon in the 60s, and he would be waving as the Byrds were driving by. He'd see or Stephen Stills or David Crosby, and he'd be with his brother playing outside, and the rock stars would be driving by. And I was always fascinated by his stories about that. We just happened to be right there, and listening to the right stuff, I think. And so Iggy and the Stooges, they're doing a 4-night stand at the Whiskey, and we go, and it's just incredible. I went back a second night, and I was with my girlfriend Gracie, and Iggy gets on my shoulders, because the Whiskey's a very small club. It's very intimate. So you got the stage, and if you stand next to the stage, the top of the stage maybe comes up to the middle of your chest, So I'm right there in front, and Iggy gets on my shoulders, right? And I turn around, and I'm on it's a little tiny dance floor, and I'm walking around with Iggy Pop on my shoulders, right? And then he gets off, and he's laying on the floor. He's laying on his back, and I happen to have a red marker, a chisel tip marker in my pocket. I don't know why. And I took it out, and I drew a big red X across his chest. So he gets back on stage, and he's got my drawing on his, because he never wore a shirt. And then he's sweating so much, it just this X just kind of drips.
Like Jesus, like blood.
Like blood, yeah.
Oh God!
And then he cut his finger. He was always cutting himself on broken glass, right? He cuts his finger, and my girlfriend Gracie, she happened to have a Band-Aid in her purse. So I see her hand him a Band-Aid, and he goes, "Oh, thanks." He's standing there on stage putting the Band-Aid on his finger. Yeah. But anyway, so then I'm
wild times. I know we had.
New York Dolls, Iggy Pop and the Stooges. The next thing, we started hearing about the scene in New York, and we were reading. We're not hearing, but we're reading and seeing some photos about bands like Television, people like Richard Hell, bands like the Ramones, Blondie, and so we're like, wow, there's a scene. There's a scene, and we're reading descriptions of their music, and I'm at Tower Records one day, and I buy the new Ramones album. I go home; it's their first album. I put it on and play it, and it was on my, it was on my turntable like all the time.
What was on it? Sheena is a punk rock, or was it the first?
No. This had Blitzkrieg Bop, and what was the other one? I forget, but it had the Blitzkrieg Bop on it, and so I was like, wow. And then, I was like, I could kind of play that style. And, because if I sat down to try to learn a David Bowie song, it was very, intricate and complex.
Sure.
And, with all the different parts, but with the Ramones, you go, oh, that's a G chord. There's an E chord, it all matched up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the Ramones they're playing a show. It's their first time in LA. They're playing a show at the Roxy Theater. They're opening for another band I was really interested in called the Flaming Groovies.
Okay.
And so we get tickets. We go see the Ramones. All right. And then I'm like, we got nothing to lose. Let's start a band. And I was writing songs by then too.
Yeah.
I must have written about 4 or 5 songs. I think 5 or 6 songs maybe. And then I co-wrote a few songs. John got inspired, and we collaborated and wrote a few songs. He was always good with lyrics, but I was writing lyrics too. And coming up, I would usually come up with a song title of a song, and then figure out some lyrics. Yeah. That's how I worked. I'd go, hey, let's do a song called, Destroy All Music, and then I'd come up with the lyrics, and or A Life of Crime, and then I'd come up with the lyrics, And I always kind of referenced a group. When I wrote a song, I was in my mind, I'm thinking like Velvet Underground, or I'm thinking the Kinks, or I'm thinking the Who, power chords. I like feedback. I like loudness, turning it up. And one day I said to Dave Trout, I said, hey, I wrote some songs, let's start a band. And so he went and he bought a bass. He goes and buys a Rickenbacker bass that had the frets shaved off. So he basically has a fretless bass, the wrong kind of bass, but that's what he played. And then I bought a guitar and an amp, and I took it over to his living room, and I taught him my songs. He gets inspired, and he writes a few songs. And then I call up John Denny, and I said, hey, come out to Dave's house, or come with me over to Dave's house, and let's, and sing these songs that Dave and I have been working on. Okay. And so he comes out, and we're working on our songs. We were just having fun for the most part.
Sure.
And we're going, man, that sounds cool. It feels good. It's like, it's working. And then John suggests we get his brother Dix. So Dix is like 17, and he's like, very quiet guy, and he's like, well, is it like the Ramones? I call him up, and he goes, "What are you doing stuff like the Ramones?" I'm like, "Yeah, because I don't like the Ramones." He didn't even like the Ramones. Dix could play like Jimmy Page, right?
All right,
he could listen to a Led Zeppelin song and just play all the parts.
Wow!
So he's like the 17-year-old, really good guitar player.
Okay.
And so we talk him, and we're like, John and I are like, just come play with us, just try it, even though you don't like it, We need your guitar.
Yeah, your support.
Because all I could play at that point was
Three with G, C, G, G.
Was rhythm guitar. I could play any chord because I was doing bar chords, so I could do the bar chords based on the open E, and I could do the bar chords based on the open A.
Yeah, have you never been interested in? I mean, I was never enthusiastic in becoming a solo guitar player. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why. So what's about you? Did you start then to practice?
Well, all my friends, my friends who played guitar had been playing guitar for a long time, and they're all like really good. You know, they could play, they could play a song by They could play anything, a Rolling Stones song, right? They could play a Beatles song, and know all the parts. And I couldn't do that. I was kind of interested in power chords, and rhythm.
Okay.
And so what I liked about the Ramones, the songs were short, the lyrics were minimal.
Yeah.
The lyrics were funny. There was a lot of humor, and some of it was pretty outrageous, Now I want to sniff some glue. I mean, it's pretty outrageous, And then there were no guitar solos, right? I like that too. So I didn't have to worry about playing guitar solo. I did really like, and I already knew about Link Wray. I don't know. You know who Link Wray is?
No.
Okay, so I already knew about Link Wray. You're going to have to listen to a little Link Wray. And Link Wray inspired people like Pete Townsend of The Who. He was one of the first. Link Wray was one of the first guitarists to get that, fuzz sound, the distortion, and play power chords.
Okay.
And he had a famous song called Rumble. It was in that movie. One of his songs was in that movie Pulp Fiction.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah,
I remember that.
So I already knew about Link Wray, and I really liked Dwayne Eddy. He did like this twangy guitar, and I also really liked the guitar from I'd go see a lot of movies back then. We would go see movies at the Fox Theater in Venice for $1, right? And sometimes, I loved the spaghetti westerns and the soundtrack from the spaghetti westerns, with that twangy guitar. So those were kind of some of the elements that I would use, I would put together. So I wanted our songs to be like, short, fast, minimal lyrics. We didn't need guitar solos. But when Dix soloed, he would just go, it would be like one note,
Okay.
And,
did you like that?
Yeah. And so now all this is leading up to the Weirdos. So I don't know if you want me to continue with this or if this is going to be a second.
You know what we're going to do? So I would say at the end of this part, we're going to play a song from the Weirdos. The neutral bomb. We got the neutral bomb.
All right.
And then we took that for the next episode already because that's interesting. So do you want to add anything to the neutron bomb?
Well, okay. So the neutron bomb, I just came up with a song because I had read an article in a magazine about the United States now has, this is 1977. I read an article about how the United States had developed this new weapon called the neutron bomb. And the whole point of the neutron bomb was that if there's it was still the Cold War. So NATO forces are facing the Soviet Union, right?
Sure.
In Eastern Europe for many years. They called it the Cold War.
Yeah.
And both sides are developing weapons. And one of the fears was that the Soviets would attack Europe. They would attack Europe from the east with tanks. And so the neutron bomb was, someone got the bright idea, why don't we create a weapon where we just kill the people, die, and all the equipment is usable. So after the people are dead, we can go in and then we can use their equipment.
Yeah.
So I'm reading this article. I'm like, wow, just what we need, another weapon, because back then, Cold War. I grew growing up and going to school. We used to do the once a month. We do the drill in case an atomic bomb was dropped nearby. Where you get down under the desk. I don't know how that would protect us.
Already traumatized. Yeah.
But anyways, so I thought, that'd be kind of a cool title. Something about the neutron bomb, and I came up with "We Got the Neutron Bomb," and I wrote the lyrics, most of the lyrics. John helped with a few lines, and I put the song together. And the song starts out with 3 chords just crashing, and then it kicks into a real rocking song. And
all right.
It just became one of our best-known songs. In fact, someone wrote a book about the L.A. punk rock scene.
Okay.
Brendan Mullen wrote a book, and he titled it "We Got the Neutron Bomb," and it's just about the L.A. rock scene. So, and the song has been on many compilation records as well.
Okay, so I would say, so dear listeners, we listened to the "We Got the Neutron Bomb" from the Weirdos. We got the Neutron Bomb.
From the land of the free, but don't blame it. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron. Don't understand you, don't know what you mean. We don't want you, we want you machine. United Nations and NATO will do. It's just a red, white, and blue. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron bomb. We just gotta survival of the fittest. The way it's gone. We don't want it. We don't want it. Don't blame me. We don't want it. We don't want it. Don't blame me. Don't blame me. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron. Gonna drop it all over the place. You're gonna get it on your face. Born and raised from the land of the free. But don't blame it. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron. We don't go. We got. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron bomb. We got the neutron. Drop it! Oh, we don't want it, but we got it anyway. Oh, we don't want it, but we got it anyway. We don't want it, but we got it anyway. We don't want it, but we got it anyway. We don't want it, but we got it
Yes. Wow, what a piece of music. That was "We Got the Neutron Bomb" from the Weirdos. And I would say on that note, Cliff, we talk in the next episode. We continue that talk with the Weirdos. I hope we can listen then a little bit to your guitar playing.
Sure.
If you listeners, if your dear listeners want to, actually, so we are actually, Cliff is now in the hall of ArTEEtude, This is actually the equivalent to the Hall of Fame and to the Hall of Rock and Roll. So, and he will be on the max. So, dear listeners, if you fancy a cup of coffee or tea or Irish coffee or whiskey or Coca-Cola with Cliff and myself, just go to www.ArTEEtude.com and you can find all my artwork there as well. The Hall of ArTEEtude Collectors Max with Cliff and actually everyone else who used to be in the podcast. You can find the podcasts too. You can find a lot of other stuff. If you want to contact Cliff, you can contact him on Instagram. It's at Cliff Roman, or on Facebook on Facebook Cliff Roman, just Cliff Roman. You can get all the information about his songs on my page as well, where you can get the songs from Bandcamp, from the Weirdos. And if you want to contact me, or if you want to follow me on Instagram, go to @Detlef Schlich on Instagram, or at ArTEEtude on Instagram, or at Isle of West Cork Artists on Instagram, or just join our Facebook group, Isle of West Cork Artists, and you can stand over there networking with us because it's a very lively group. I think that's it. I hope I haven't forgotten anything. And Cliff, it was a great talk. Again, I'm looking forward already to our next early confession next Sunday at 10 a.m. And I would say until this moment, bye. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, Det. Bye-bye.
You have listened to ArTEEtude, West Cork's first art, fashion and design podcast. ArTEEtude, never so close again. That was too close.
Okay.
Are we off now?